Hey, welcome to Tolleson Mack podcast, brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and Hoof Grip. Right? Yeah. Right here to my right, Mr. Coleman Proctor.
Hey,
buddy.
Thanks you guys for having me on. I'm actually a huge fan. I could go down the list of all the ones I've listened to. Had some buddies get me hooked on it. Obviously, I loved the Britt Buckus one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you were airing all of Mikey's dirty laundry, Caesar, I was like, there ain't a chance in the world I'm going on that podcast.
No,
But you guys got me hustled in the door, so congratulations. That's a good job.
I want to talk about the early days and like your healing, because that's when I first met you.
Let's talk
like,
healing.
Well, here
Man.
let's precursor that. I said, man, I always wanted to party with somebody, from the finals or whatever. And if I could pick anybody, I want to party with Coleman. He just looks like a good time, He's always fun and high energy. And Caesar goes, not when he's heading. You'd want to party with him when he's healing.
back in his early his late teenage years, his early 20s, right there. This guy was just healing feet and having a good time. And like we talked a little bit earlier about Britt Buckus, like that was all of our heroes right there.
Absolutely.
Coleman had a style like Britt. He had his heel rope wound up, and he'd throw a big 13-foot gate. Is that what he'd say? Spray that 13-foot gate.
I didn't always ride the marksmanship of position.
But I mean, he threw
But
the
you got
gate.
feet.
He
But
had
you
the
got
gate,
feet.
boys.
Yeah, no, that's how I grew up. I cut my teeth healing. Wanted to be a healer, and obviously Oklahoma City was going big then. You had the U.S. finals, and I never did any good in there at the finals because, well, honestly, I didn't jackpot very good because really I didn't really understand healing. This, kind of to the point I feel like I understand it now. But Caesar was always there, and he always had Johnny Ringo looking like $1,000,000, and he'd have his camper and his 2 horses. And I just thought that was the coolest rig in the entire world, and that horse looked so pristine, and he healed down. You always wanted the U.S. finals, kind of opposite of my career. And I'll never forget that because then I started roping with Brett Boatwright, and we were kind of around each other all winter. One year, would that be like 06? And this is my first chance to I'm ever roping with a guy that's been to the show. I go to his house, there's back numbers, and there's all this cool stuff, and I just thought Boater was the coolest, and you had just gotten done almost roping with Boater not long before that.
The year before.
And so we talked about that a lot, about how, you can learn a lot from guys like that, and I just remember that being a really cool memory to me, and then Caesar and I getting to be as good of friends as we are, it kind of really spawned on from there. But yeah, I used to love healing, still talk about, I'm still a 10 because I don't let them lower me. Because at the end of the day, when I handle one bad, I need to be able to look at my partner and just say, "Hey, we're all 10s here." You know what I mean?
Get your life together.
That's right.
We're all 10s here.
Like, man, I know he was upside down, but hey, we're all 10s here. You know what I mean?
Do you think that makes you a better header?
I think it's helped me understand kind of what they're looking at. I know one time Billy Jack and I were rodeoing, and it was the second year. And the whole first year, man, it just wasn't as comfortable as we both wanted it to be. And we were working on, he wanted me to roll the steer more here, and I'd just come off roping with Jake Long, who was wanting me to slam him to the end of it, like Clay Trine does at the jackpots. He was wanting that kind of style of handling. So that's kind of how all my horses are geared, and we're kind of fighting in the middle ground there. And I went and helped at the timed event one time, and I'm healing behind Spencer Mitchell, who's just bringing mad heat. And I'm on a slow but really good heel horse that I've got borrowed. And he would say, "Hey, I need you to haze him." I'm like, "Okay." He said, "The horse isn't very fast." I'm like, "That's fine." So I'd step out there and haze. I mean, I grew up in the IRA. I know how to haze one. So I'd step one over in the office, baby, and I'm telling you, when he brings, like, you're at the timed event, and it's tail around the end of the gate, guys are they run in there and doctor him down, and this Spencer Mitchell's bringing smoke. Well, then I'm up there kind of exposed, and I got to kind of crawl back to the inside, give myself a chance as I come through the turn, and when he hits, his mare kind of gets to the wall, she weakens up just a little bit, and the steer kind of takes a straight one on me, and I mean, it closed up fast. I burn it in there, and I get him, and I come back, and I heal for my next guy, and he kind of more ran behind him, and he picked their head up and set him on the end, and then he'd get moved out in front of the steer, and that steer just shoot away, and it felt like a typewriter down there and I tried to heel it down. I was like, golly, I told my wife I got done. I said, now I know what I don't want my guy to look at.
Right.
And that's what, I think that's helped me a lot, like understanding rhythm. And I tell my partner all the time, like, man, I'm a healer's header. Like I want to be a guy that's known for, helping you out. And cause at the end of the day, like your healer doesn't catch because you handle him good, right? Like I don't catch the horns because of where he hazes the steer to.
Right.
It's just, those are the little things we can do to shave off time. And at the end of the day, it's all about time. I mean, when a steer takes a jump and that's 0.3 of a second, if I can cut a little bit of time out of there, I mean, like last night, that's the difference between first and third in the round. So, all month that we've been working on, I think one day we video every day. My partner comes up, the whole month of November, he'll come up 3 days a week, 2 days a week. I mean, 11 hours round trip. We set it up at the factory there by the house, and we've got it going on. And we video every steer. And so then we go sit down and break down. And we talk about it. And the most productive thing was for me to say, all right, Logan, We're going to not look at your horse. We're not going to look at my horse. I'm going to explain to you what I think a good handle is and what I'm going for, because I'm a header. Like in my earlier years, I used to think I could control the back end of the steer, but like simple facts are I rope his head. I'm attached to his head, so I can control his head. I cannot control his back end, but I can open that front right leg up. I can give you an area to put your rope down at. I can separate the feet, and I can maintain a good angle coming out of the turn. Because I think as a healer, naturally when you go to the end of it, Caesar, tell me if I'm wrong, but when I set this steer on the end of it, at the end of that corner, that's kind of, you've predetermined that's where your route's going. So it needs to follow that line that I show you when he gets to the end of it. I mean, I grew up roping a fast lane a lot with Jake Long, and if you want to make Jake Long really get mad, you just turn him at the fast lane, and when he goes to throw, you just swing that steer's hips to the inside, and you can't catch it, right? And so I learned at an early age, like, just messing with him basically, that like when I set that steer to the end of the switch, I've got to maintain that line the whole way and be opening that front end. So once we kind of put into words and I could illustrate on the screen, like this is what I'm considering a good handle, then it allowed us to work it back. And now all of a sudden we're getting good rhythm together. Things are starting to feel good. So yeah, to answer your question, I feel like it's made me a lot better header. It's made me a lot more appreciative now too for how great the healers are that are in the game.
I do a lot of clinics, and I've been telling these young kids, especially headers, they got to be, it helps to heal a little bit. Some of these kids, I just want to be a healer, I just want to be a header. But I've noticed, especially my generation of ropers, our generation of ropers, y'all are good at both ends. Like, you're really good at both ends. You're a world-class healer, and then you come out here and head, and you know how to set the steer up. You just explained the perfect way to handle the steer. You know what I'm saying? I control the backside over there. You control the front end of the steer and control that. And then when you set him up, that's where I know my horse needs to go. I know where to put my loop down. It's easy. But like, I think it's important that people really study the game like you do. And then we talked to Hunter Cook and Cody Snow a little bit earlier last couple of days, and they talked about communication and how important. We'll go into both of that kind of stuff, but like, it's important.
And it's tough, that's where the chemistry aspect of our game comes from. And I think that's an advantage that Logan and I have. This is going to be 5 years of us roping together. People don't stay together that long anymore, but and our communication has not always been great. And, I believe when you're healing, you're reactionary only to the cow. It's just like playing defense in basketball. I'm not going to be able to predetermine where this guy's going dribbling the ball. I've got to find somewhere on that guy's body. Right, he can fake me out with his head. Like, he can fake me out with the ball, but like the middle of his chest, he's not going anywhere without that. So I can then make my read off of where this goes. And then there becomes that point of there's human nature that plays in of you're going to mess up, you're going to stub your toe, and anytime I make a mistake, but I'm making a read, then I can live with it. It's when I kind of predetermine, because for me, scoring's a lot the same way. It's just like riding the corner for a healer. I mean, they're this exact same importance. If I get a bad start, but I made a good read, then things are going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So once the healers kind of understand that they're not reading the head horse, they're not reading the header, because I don't know if your schools go a lot like mine. I got kids all the time, parents come in, they're like, well, we don't let him rope calves because it messes us up his healing, which then messes up his head, and which messes up his calf roping. Like, do you agree? And I'm like, man, I'm going to be honest. I know you're paying me here today, but no.
I grew up watching.
And I don't want to say no.
Okay.
Because I honestly rope everything you can. I had 2 older sisters. I learned how to get my rope off something fast.
Yes.
And get out of the way.
Britt said he used to rope the chains off the gate and swinging.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And I think anywhere you can be handling your rope, roping is all the same principles. We got to turn our rope over the target, wherever it is. If I'm trying to rope this calf's neck, if I'm trying to head this steer, if I'm trying to heel this steer, we're trying to get our swing over the middle of our target and make a delivery.
Whatever we make our hand do, the loop is the extension of it, correct?
I believe that 1,000%.
So if you want your loop to go down, you got to rope the neck. You got to get your tip down like you would your fingertips in your hand. If you want to heel, it's a different angle. Head and I tell people all the time, I know them guys at the finals are looking like they're just throwing it out there, but watch how when they release, they're following it all the way to the horns, and then when it hits the horns, now they're going to pull their slack. I'm just throwing it out there and then pulling slack.
Well, I'll tell you what, you'll get in a jam, and you'll see it a lot this week. Guys will kind of miss a start, and the first thing you want to do is burn it through the middle and just try to throw right through the middle of the horns. Like Matt Sherwood's one of the greatest to ever rope both horns at the same time. But when we get close, it's a lot about right to left. And like last night on the start that I got, my first round over here, I kind of have to pull just a little bit to make sure I'm getting out. I didn't know for sure when I left if I was getting out. So when I get that pull, man, my horse goes inside. Well, now it puts me, I'm in the inside lane, and now my steer's stepping left. So I have to get one more swing, and I have to step out and get back and establish my spot, and then be able to come right to left and be able to catch up close. That's ultimately what kept me from making the national finals so long. 7 years deep of just pure losing is because I could not run to the steer and just catch him. I could not take the rope and go right to left across the horns. It wasn't ever something I worked on. 2 coils back, I was rank sauce. But problem is you get paid on the one. I mean, like, that's cool that you can catch that one, but you have to catch the lopers. You have to be able to last night, be able to step to your spot, right to left, snap it on the horn.
How do you? Yeah, I mean, you're doing really good at that. Last night you did good about just making sure to set the run up and give your healer a good shot. But like, how do you explain that to a kid that's learning? It's this generation of ropers that didn't just learn how to just catch. Because when I was roping, we still had the regular barrier set up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure the same way with you. Like, you're gonna have to run up there and just catch, or like your high callback, just catch. You grew up healing, so you understood that. I get a lot of
kids,
too, right?
I got a lot of kids that we do schools with, and not everybody watches the YouTubes. You know what I mean? Which is great. They got so much
throwing.
They got so much more information now than we had, and they are seeing, Tanner Tomlinson in the box from the back.
They're seeing Coleman Proctor
3-1
last year. You know what I'm saying?
You see me doing that. I do that more up there by that first barrel stake. You know what I mean? I'm not throwing in the box. I told the judge here one time, I said, listen, if you think that's even close, I threw in the box, you flag us out. I need some street cred that I can let go of my rope that fast. You know what I mean?
You got to get that street cred up.
But the thing about it is it's more about, we got to learn to cut the fat out of the run. You know what I mean?
Right.
And since I've been rodeoing, obviously I think Speed Williams is the greatest header of all time. I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of the people that are here today, he's actually going to get inducted this week out here. I think it's going to be very special.
Beautiful.
But, and I think anybody out here at the national finals, they had some sort of speed. They either watched him or he's personally helped a lot of us. He took me under his wing and changed my life and my career. But then when I was rodeoing, and the guy that I got to battle with every day and see it when I was performing at a high level was Clay Trine. Like, he was the best. You could not beat him, especially if he got a little bit mad. You weren't taking it to him. I remember one year he was having a rough finals out here, and Billy Jack said, I wish they'd go to catching because he's going to be the hell to deal with come winter. You know what I mean? So, but like, if you looked at all his runs, man, there was no wasted motion. And so being efficient, and that's what I try to teach kids all the time. I love that you can reach. That's cool. But if I were to program myself, if I were to start heading tomorrow, what I would have done is I would just run to the cow, I would rope him, and I would have him just tied on the horns. And then the minute it hit his horns, I would start a stopwatch. And I want to see how fast I can control the run and set it up to where my heater can catch. And let's say that takes 2 seconds, right? Like, that's 2 seconds my heater can throw and I can finish, right? Then I'd come back, all right, now I'd rope coming in there, but I still maintain this 2 seconds. And then I would learn to reach, and I'd still maintain that 2 seconds. Because so many people, you see they reach, but it's inefficiently and it's pointless because they reach and then it's 3 more strides before anything starts happening. Mm-hmm. Well, like I said a while ago, 0.3 of a second every time a steer takes a hop. I imagine it's a little shorter with a steer running, but just using that same little measurement, I mean, you can cut, if I'm reaching and then it still takes me 3 more strides to get him turned, I'm giving up a second to the field just trying to look cool. And to be honest with you, you don't look cool when you're headed to the soup line. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I've been working on a few things at the clinics is about putting on the chute. And then let's go down there, dally, set the run up, and then let's work on the handle. Because we know you can rope, but like the handle's terrible. You're going up the arena, you're doing all kinds of stuff. When you pull your slack, your left hand's going over here. Like, let's pretend you pulled your slack and you dally in your left hand. Let's work on the handle, and then usually the second day we'll go back. We'll rope a little bit more because like if your healer can't catch, you're not going to be able to win any money. You know what I mean? We talked about that earlier about the way you explain handle. That was perfect how you explained.
Yeah, and I like to think about it like I wasn't very good at baseball. I mean, I know it's going to shock you because when I walk in that door, you think athlete. You know what I mean? But
finely tuned athlete
on the verge of greatness.
Verge of greatness.
So
right there on the.
What I think about it is, if you were to draw a baseball diamond out, like when I'm roping, that's running to first base. I got to run to first base. I rope, and then I'm standing on first base, still looking out at the outfield wall, and I've got my slack tight, and I'm dallied. Now I'm gonna have slack between me and the steer, correct? Like it's tight on his head, but I got slack here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna side pass all the way, still looking at outfield to second. Now my rope's tight between me and the steer, and what I've done is I've made my horse start using his foot speed. Okay, and a lot of people, they get this confused because, they say, like, my horse is step wide. Well, they're staying parallel with the cow, and that's how I've got to use leverage to transition the steer smoothly. Obviously, the steer doesn't weigh as much as my horse, so this steer's going to come with me. I want to do it in a way that's readable for my healer. So I'm going to establish that by side passing. I'm still facing outfield fence. Now when the steer's head and shoulder comes to me, now he's vulnerable, and then here's where I can take control of him. That's when I'm going to stop, and I'm going to turn and go to third. And that to me has been the easiest way to explain to people because it's almost that shape. Then we would start off, I'd be roping the heliomatic. We'd run up in here. You're going to rope and you drag your slack, dally. Now ask your horse to get to second base. Now let him stop and take the rope off the horns. Now when you rope, I want you to rope, drag your slack. As I'm dragging my slack, allow that horse to get to second so that when it hits the horn, it's tight. One thing that makes Heisman so great in this building is, man, I can take him right to the steer. Just like last night, I was headed behind the steer, and he's going to open up and get back to our spot to rope. But when I drag my slack and I shake my reins, he is stepping up and over to second so that when it hits the saddle horn, his steer's head's coming to me. And then he does get way too low in the front end. Speedy and I have had big debates about that. He moves the saddle horn when it's time. I think one thing people miss in roping, when we talk position, handle, anything, the most important part of this whole horse, I used to worry about what their head did, what their butt did, all that. The most important thing is that I can move this saddle horn. When we talk about go get yourself in position on the heel, like if I can rope the sawhorse here all day long, right? Well, my saddle horn's in the perfect spot. How many times have you had a student that they walk up there to start swinging their rope, and they can even just, be like, well, when I come around there and heel, and they put their swing right in front of their face and they look to the right. And I said, well, I can tell you right now, you don't ride very good because the whole time that you're swinging this, you're looking around trying to find where the feet are. I was the same way. And I only know that from a lot of bills that I didn't get paid with my heel rope, right? So I think understanding that the saddle horn is the most important part of this whole animal, and then what's right below the saddle horn is my feet. So you got to learn to use your feet. Speedy used to say, Coleman, those feet are not to hang like fence posts. They're not for holding on. Establish your lane. I mean, I've heard it. It's people, and I always do my Speed impression. It's with nothing but love.
That was perfect.
That was perfect. Tell you, I have a lot of love for Speed Williams. It's just that is embedded in my mind. I mean, I walked in the box 2 years ago at Calgary. Just have to catch this one. 14 flat for 14,000, and I'm like, and I can just I can hear it. Hi, teamer, go all the way in there. Make sure your horse is stood up. I mean, I can just hear it, and still to this day, and I always kind of get a chuckle because he's right there in the back of that ear still.
Always nice. So last night we're watching the team roping. First round, go at 33,000, and there was a couple teams that went like they'd already missed 3.
A lot of youth you saw do that.
Yeah, a lot of youth.
Hey, I was right there with it. My
what
first
in
round
the
ever.
hell?
Hey, my first round ever, man. I missed the barrier reached, and I had a lot on his head. I waved it off, and just right out the back door. My folks had flown in that day. Their planes get delayed. They bring all their clothes and just drop them on the concourse there. Run down to their seats just to watch me pop it off, and then all right, let's go to the room. You know what I mean? Hey, it's the national finals. You got a guy like J.C. Aquo. He goes fast better than most people that I've ever seen in my life. It's natural for him. He was a little late last night, and then I know that feeling is like, man, there's a sweet spot in this arena, and it's about 35 feet. You draw a circle right out in front of that chute. If you're doing your business inside of there, it's easy. When you get outside of that circle, man, it gets tough. And so I understand it. I sympathize with them a lot. And I tell you what, that steer that surprised me the most last night was Clint Summers, Jake Long.
Oh my goodness!
And of course, we cataloged the run through. I've got all the steers on video. He never does that in the run through, but that's team roping. That's we're roping a live animal, and he cuts Jake Long off. So the only one that I was kind of laughing about was Tanner Braden's partner, Kyle Dennison.
Yeah.
When he burned it by, because he is so rank and he's really good at going fast. But on his way out, so he's the only one I'll laugh and poke fun at, just because on the way out last night, he hollered at Jake, "Hey, good haze." Man, Kyle, you can't barely touch the right horn on a steer and give a healer.
He's got so much confidence on
You know what I mean?
He's ready for round number 2, baby.
I mean, I love it where your head's at.
Yeah.
So like,
you gotta give him some props
getting
for
in
that.
the tunnel and getting ready to go, like these first timers. I remember going in there. Coulter had a mistake in the first round, so like it was, and then this, we didn't start getting tapped off till about the third round. I got a spin, so like I had a couple runs under my belt, so like I kind of I felt like it was easier, but like Cheech was telling me, he brought that up. I forgot about that. How I used to get angry, like get mad, kind of like we were getting in a fight, almost like. That adrenaline rush really helped, kind of get mad like that.
Yeah, you had that sucker pulled down.
Well, man, I didn't want to see the crowd, dude. I didn't want to see the crowd. I just want to see just me and the feet, just me and the steer. That's all we've been roping our whole lives. We can do this. Catch the steer, see the feet, rope the feet. It's pretty simple, right? I mean,
good, yeah.
Brandon, when I was
if it gets too technical for
Yeah,
me, I
think
get
that's
messed up.
too, though. I think that's great because everybody has a process, man. Like me, I'm out here all day. I'm doing stuff. I've been doing my podcast over here at Red Dirt Hat Company. We've been down there hanging out. And then I'm gonna, come over here, hang out with you guys for a little bit. I'm gonna run home, try to get a quick shower, maybe just restart my day as I go to the Purina pregame show. And then I'm on the steps of the Tolleson Mack right up until 4:30, 4:45, and then the rodeo starts at 5:45. So that gives me 1 hour, and that works for me. Right. And I know a lot of people get worried about a guy getting distracted, but what that does is it puts the rodeo in its time slot. Right. And then I'm compartmentalized. I'm working on other stuff throughout the day. And then it doesn't give me all day to stew about a mistake I made or to celebrate how good we did last night. It makes it a normal rodeo that, I mean, if I pulled into Lewiston, Idaho, I'd be pulling in probably when slack started because team rope was down just a little ways. Right.
Because he's really thinking about
I want to be,
stuff.
you know what I mean? And it works for me because I stay loose and relaxed. I'm great at focusing in short bursts and then when I'm focused on something, that's the only thing I'm worried about. And so for me, it works good being relaxed up until the go time. And then when it's go time, I kind of have a weird deal. Not quite. It's not as publicly noticed, I guess, as your look in the box. But, like I take my rope and I tap myself on the back 3 times. And that's just kind of my cue of, it's go time. You know what I'm saying? Now you're Coleman Proctor. It's time to go do Coleman Proctor things. And so that's when I walk in that box. So that's my process. And I have to be pretty relaxed. Heisman can get a little bit tense in there. He's kind of like your hype man. Like if all your buddies, you know what I mean, and you were out at an establishment, let's say late at night, you've always got one in the crowd that's just like, let's do something crazy. That would be.
Did you meet Jake?
That would be Heisman. You know what I'm saying? And the problem is,
Jake Heisman.
the problem is that I was always a hype man too. So I'm like, let's do something crazy. And so like when we're hanging in there together, you know what I mean? It kind of, because then if you ever been the hype man, but then you're with a set of friends and you kind of look around, you're like, man, if we're going to get out of this deal alive, one of us better pull it back and make sure and take care of the rest.
Somebody has to be helping. Somebody needs to pay attention.
When we're in the box, a lot of times, like when he starts getting hyped up and going fast, I'm like, hey, okay, hold on. I need you to calm down.
You talk to him a lot.
I do.
You
I
do.
do. Yeah.
When you walk in the box, you're talking.
Hey,
But I
settle
tell you
down,
what it
buddy.
does is because in the beginning, he embarrassed me. I mean, I didn't want my horse to do that. Are you kidding me? And I swear, anybody else would get on him, walk in the box, and they could get along fine. He's a perfect gentleman. But man, our just kind of energy levels, the way they match. And so, at first I would take a bad go at the steer because I would just be like, all right, let's just nod. I just want out of here. You know what I'm saying? And then I was like, BS, man, I got bills to pay. This is $33,000 a night. I'm getting it right. So whatever it takes to make that happen, because I got to have that. He's a weapon when he's underneath me. I don't know if anybody else would get along with him at all out here, but I certainly think he's the best one at the Tolleson Mack. He's the best one for our team. So that's what, for me, it kind of keeps me relaxed a little bit to the point when I'm just like, hey, man, you're going to have to chill it out because I'm ready to go. This year's great, and I don't want to get a fine. Okay, if you want some more treats or some good alfalfa, you better slow down because it's $250. Tomorrow night it'll be $500 if we go over our time limit. So
he was telling me that the people in the crowd he high fives are his buddies. Like he does that all the time.
yeah, that's my boy Shane Ohado, man. He takes good care of me. Like when I'm out there in the summer, Colorado, Greeley, and all that. Heck, this year, called him up. I entered an Indian rodeo at Riverton, Wyoming. And right after slack, but I need a rig to get there. So I call him up. He gives me a truck, trailer, and it was so funny. My dear friend Griffin Passmore's with me, and he comes bringing in this brand new King Ranch edition like that. For those of you who may not know, like
Shiny.
I'm on the base level Ford package from Bill Fick, but like that's the big dog. Right? So he pulls.
I'm on the XL package.
Brand new. I'm talking beautiful truck, no miles on it. And he's like, "Hey, bring it back before it needs new tires, huh?" You know what I mean? Just throws me the keys, and Griffin's like, dang, I like the way you borrow. And then the worst part is that this is what would happen. This is why the Toter Tales is so funny, because this is the genuine stuff that happens. Brings me a nice little stock trailer. We zip it out there 4.5 hours, make it in time for the perf. Run ours. We do good, making a short round. Now I've got to fly back for the short round at Reno. So we're going to unhook this trailer and go to the room. Well, like we're out here somewhere. I don't know any of these people. I don't want them stealing what's in this trailer. I'm not saying people would. I want to take care of this guy's trailer. It's not mine. So we drive the parking lot, I'm telling you, for 40 minutes trying to find the perfect spot. Finally, there's a spot between 2 fences, one on the side and one on the back. Perfect. We back it up there because after we get done, my partner's coming by to pick me up. We don't have to use this trailer anymore. It just had to get our horses there. We take off. We'll go with the short round. I go to Reno, come back. We open the short round. Griffin's going to drive it back to Shane's house. He's going to give me a ride to the airport. Somewhere along there, somebody hits the back door of this thing. Well, we never go look at it, right? Like Griffin's the most stand-up guy you'll ever meet in your life. Like if he tears something up, he's able to just buy you a new one and be like, man, I'm so sorry, right? But we literally never go open the back door again. So we have no idea. We drop it off the next day. Shane texts me, "What the heck? What about this door, Holmes?" You know, won't open. And we're like, oh my gosh. So I don't know if he got hit. Like he stopped and got diesel one time. I don't know if he got hit somewhere. What happened? Right. But like,
it was messed
and
up.
we literally tried so hard to not let anything happen to him. But yeah, so that's Ohio. I had to buy him a new door. I went $8,600, I think, at the Indian Rodeo. And I spent $2,600 getting the door put back like it was normal. A brand new door, well on, ready to rock and roll. So that's Ohio. That's who I'm always high fiving. And you asked me earlier, yeah, last year I did. Let's talk about the Crossfire. I did know they
Talk about
flagged
it.
us out, right? Like so when
I was gonna say because like a lot of the people thought that you didn't know exactly when it happened because you're high five and then we thought that you knew after, but you already knew. You said.
yeah, no, like when I faced, of course they screamed, yeah, that was out. And so when I faced, like I'm staring down the rope looking at Logan because I mean I watch my target from the time I nod my head, I'm staring at the horns. When I rope him, I'm staring at the horns. When I'm leading through the turn, I'm staring at the horns. And when I face, I'm staring at the horns because I got to keep. That's my responsibility the whole way. It doesn't just end after I catch. So when I faced right there, I can see Logan, and then I see Chuck Haas behind him, and I see him do the X, meaning crossfire. And so that's when I give it the, oh, man. Well, then I turn, and they're hollering at me so loud about like it was such a good. So what that you don't see on TV is when I let my rope go, and I kind of give it a, well, and I go over there and high five my boys because ultimately we rope for money. That's what we do. But we rope for the thrill. Like the nerves you're going to get when you go to walk in the national finals or Cheyenne or the
That run had to
BF5.
feel awesome.
But what are we after? Well, we always want to win. We always want buckles. But at the end of the day, like when they get put on a shelf somewhere, we spend the money probably before we get home. It's some memories of what we're doing, right? Like that's what we're out here churning up. And that's what, you talk to Fred Whitfield up here on the stage. I mean, man, you want to hear his stories. Like in the stuff that he's learned over his career and them great moments. Man, it might have been a blown tire on the side of the road where he met somebody cool. You don't know. But for me that night, what was so exciting was like, man, that is the first time, and I'd been out here now 9 times. That was the first time I had done a perfect job. Like that was the perfect
That was
job.
my
Like
question.
that was the start I got. That was the headshot I wanted. That was the handle I wanted. And that was the finish.
Right then after you got done with that run, did you know that run was special? Did you know?
I just knew that like that was the feeling we're after.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was like
Perfection.
You didn't know
that
the
was
timing,
me.
but you knew that's exactly what you
Well, I
wanted.
looked and saw the time. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I knew it didn't matter because we were going to be 33-1 because somebody said, man, you're the fastest header alive. I said, hell, I was 33-1, man. That ain't, I know we can beat that. But cause that's what Jake Long later, he said, hey, man, good job tonight. That was a good spin. I don't really agree with the call, but you handled it well. And were you 3-1? I said, yeah, but I think he gave us a flag a little early because he was going to flag us out. I don't know how
I
long it
don't
goes.
think so,
but,
man.
Re-
I think it was that fast. That heel
Replay.
horse, everything.
wow, and hey,
What do you think?
good for him. That's great to have it in there. And honestly, I've talked to the judges a lot, and I've talked about this a lot. I'm not mad at any of those judges at all because we ask those guys to make hard calls. You put an individual in that space that none of those guys are wanting to screw over anybody that's going. They want to see everybody win.
Yeah, their check isn't going to get bigger if they
Right.
crossfire.
I mean, it's just they get the same no matter what. And I think they are kind of relieved to have a fail safe for them because what you see. And then from where they've got to read it and they got to make the call isn't always the same. It looks different from their angle.
If they get 3 or 4, even looking up at the scoreboard right there and seeing the run 3 or 4 times over and be like, okay, I know the call. That's for sure crossfire.
Right.
It's not.
Well, you
like-
saw it last night with the markout rule. They cut. They had one that got no scored, and then when they come back and they said, yeah, replay confirms it.
for
I
his.
think he would have give it back to you guys
Lefty.
because that steer come in to Logan and then when he hit, his ass cracked and then was coming up when he got that loop.
Yeah, like if you watch just the steer, it's a totally legal shot. What the hard part about that deal was last year we did have the crossfire judge, and he wasn't honestly like he's not far enough down the arena to be
Yes,
in an
sir.
advantageous spot.
Yes,
He's
sir.
not in the
So
right
the problem
spot.
is you got your flagger here in the corner where he has to be, and then you got your crossfire judge who's not quite far enough down the arena. So when the steer hit and he had pinched Logan off, so when he switches, Logan's horse is still angled towards him. Even though if you just watch
The
the
steer
steer,
took all the separation away though.
it looks totally legal if you're just watching the steer. If you're just watching the horse, you naturally just think, oh, he had to have crossfired him. You know what I mean? It looks like little Michael Camelot over there throwing. You know what I mean?
That little shot when he stepped into you and that separation really.
And
helped
it
you
so
out.
then
Like,
just
really finished strong.
just
right
to
there.
give a lot of props to the judges, like from where they saw it, they couldn't technically probably see
I
the
got you.
steer. They can see the way Logan's horse is and the angle of the steer, and that presents itself to look like a crossfire. The replay they show on the Cowboy Channel, where it's from down here on the other end, where you see the steer, you can say, "Oh yeah."
Well, yeah, he was
And I
clean,
think
and then
that's what ultimately social media gets us in trouble a lot, because then they start getting blasted, right? Just to me, oh, that's the worst call ever. Man, you're not ever going to pay me enough money to be in that
No.
position over there.
Well, that's what I
trying
was
to
gonna say.
make that
The
call.
guy was kind of lucky to have you. You're the one of the nicest guys in the rodeo. Like he like kind of just kind of.
even Logan's pretty level-headed
Yeah.
too.
You know what was so cool? Logan, Hunter Cook won the round that night, him and Luke. And he came out and Hunter said, "Man, I'm sorry." He goes, "That was such a bad call, this and that."
Yeah.
Logan said, "Stop. This is your night. Great job. Great win."
That's pretty cool.
You know what I mean? That's a
That's pretty
stand-up
cool.
guy. That's my
Yeah.
partner. But that's my partner day in, day out, not just under big eyes.
I got to ask you a question, and then we'll let you get out of here. You said you came here, you missed in the first round because you just went at him, right? One of your first time?
I'd say this. You're keyed up at the house. We've been going behind the gates. You've been throwing like 1-2, send it, 1-2, send it. So there's a natural rhythm there.
You cannot practice for this place.
And then when you back in here, you can't practice for that start. Like that. Well, I'm saying that start is so fast. We don't take a start like that ever in our lives.
But my question would be, you back in here, you miss that first one. What's then your mindset?
You know, it was so cool. My sister sent me a picture of that run that night of it coming off. She'd screenshotted it or whatever. And I don't know how she does all this, but she made like a GIF. I guess you youngsters out there would call it a GIF. Something.
GIF.
And it said, every setback just makes a trail for a comeback. That's
There
all
you
she
go.
sent me, right? And it was like, you know what? You've waited your whole life to be here. It's just one steer. I'm probably going to miss another one. Probably going to miss another one for a lot more money. You know what I mean? But I'm backing in here because I'm one of the best 15 in the world. This is where I belong. This has been my dream since I was a little kid. And I'm just going to show them how great I can bounce back. And that's where it really started of, man, I'm either winning or I'm learning. I'm never losing. I'm going to get something from it. It costs too much. Too many people have sacrificed their time, their money, you know what I mean, their resources to see where to help me get to this place. So every one I run, I need to get something out of.
I just wonder on the second one, do you feel like you kind of safety up a little bit if you missed the first
Absolutely
one?
not, man. I didn't.
No?
And they won't
You know
either.
what I mean?
But I mean, I'll be
that's what
honest.
I would think.
It gets heavier out here, and that
Yeah.
monkey that's on your back, he
Right.
starts getting bigger. It's kind of like that dad bod I was talking about last night. I had my first kid, and the dad bod came out of the corner, and he was like a little featherweight, and I just knocked him back fast. You know what I mean? The second kid, he was about a middleweight. He'd come out there a little stronger, and it took me a little bit, but I got him. And then this third kid hit, and it looked like George Foreman walking at me. You know what I mean? It's been a battle, but no, it gets bigger the more rounds you're going. I think Hunter Cure gave me the best advice that I've ever had about getting the finals going, because honestly, if you look historically at the stats, I'm not a big starter. Like, I don't start well in the first round. I've missed the barrier a lot here.
That's
You
why
know,
the
and
crowd
I'm a
loves
veteran.
you, though. Yeah,
You
I mean,
know.
you get them up.
Well,
Get 'em up because at any time you back in the box, this could be the time.
Well, and that's certainly our hope, and that's what we're going for. But, I think last night us getting a quick start off on it, that was one of the first successful runs I've made in the first round. So as you get going, Hunter Cure told me, he said, you know what, the two ways to get tapped off in this building are either to win something or hammer the start. And he said, and honestly, hammering the start is the most important. So you knock that start back one time and you feel it, and you're just like,
That's got to be true, because everybody that sat down here with us for the last 2 days all says the same thing. You cannot believe how fast the cattle leave.
and especially from the breakthrough and the break-in, because Caesar, you know this as well as anybody, like the break-in the other day, they set the barrier up twice for us, which was new. They usually only set it up once, and I ran through it both times. The steers just weren't leaving, and I said, I just got off a Heisman. I run the first one on him and just ran through the barrier. Like, it looked sad. My wife was even like, "Ooh, you doing okay there,
Hey,
little early?"
right there,
and,
big guy.
and I told her, I said, no, his timing feels great. I said, I know they're going to leave in the first round. And then you saw even like Eric Rogers last night. He took off and his steer didn't start, and he gets a good start. Like, he didn't just wax it out of there. I mean, it's a great start, but I mean, he didn't. There was still some more room that you could have been moving forward. So it changes from the break in to round one, and that's just what we get it on with.
100%.
All right, man.
Coleman, thank you for your time, bro.
Hey, and I
Really
do want to
appreciate
say real quick, Caesar, everybody asks me about like my Toter Tales and my videos. I don't know if you've ever watched them. They say, where did that come from? And I got to tell you this. So back in the day when it's Spin to Win magazine, you had done a video diaries of your time at the national finals. And I remember you were hanging out in your trailer, you're roping your dummy. And of course, we were kind of almost in the same age group. You know what I mean? You were obviously exponentially more successful than me. But I'll never forget,
Little
because
older.
as a kid, like, we didn't have social media, Instagram, all this stuff. We had Spin to Win Rodeo magazine. You'd get some BFI tapes. You know what I mean? I couldn't even afford the Hort Dog for a long time. Almost had to win it before I could get one of those cool videos. But I'll never forget you had done that, and I'm telling you, I watched that over and over and over, and
Yeah,
I
man.
was
It
always
cold outside, and I had my
Jake
dummy set
Barnes.
out there.
Jake Barnes does his diary. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I just craved that. What's it really like out there? What's that behind the scenes knowledge? And so, really, anybody that ever asked me about like where that Toto Tales come from, it stemmed ultimately from watching Cesar De La Cruz behind the
That's
scenes.
pretty awesome.
diaries.
Thanks, Coleman.
So
I
it's pretty
appreciate
cool
it
to
because
set
I
good
love your
now.
Toto Tales, man. There's nothing cooler than some of the.
Oh yeah,
rodeo
you guys
stories.
got to check out Toter Tales. I mean, I
Gotta
watch
check it
I
out.
think it's pretty good.
I feel
stuff.
like you're grooming yourself for the next.
Oh yeah, Joe B better watch out.
No, I
you
don't
heard it
know.
here first.
I had a buddy tell me a while back. He's like, Coleman. He was like, I'm a smart ass and I'm good at it. He said, you're just a good storyteller, right? Like
Well,
I think that's the
you,
trick. though.
you explain what you're doing very articulate. You know what I mean? Like you make when you explain that whole first base segment. I mean, I feel like I want to go rope now.
You're ready.
I could
You
do
know what I
this.
mean? Yeah.
I also might have broke the fast lane. I just want to apologize. in advance.
I seen there was some duct tape going that
I
way.
did. Hey, there's been a lot of fast lanes in Northeast Oklahoma. Get some duct tape. And if my mom was here, she'd have that thing reworked in 10 minutes.
No problem.
We got good at it. We've wore some fast lanes out. But no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
I don't know what I'm going to do next. I tell you, I just hope I find something I'm passionate about. It's something I tell kids all the time. Find something you love. Find something you're passionate about. Because when you're passionate, you'll chase with everything you got. And I don't know. I think Caesar's done such a great job of transitioning because there get to be those calls of like, hey, I got kids and stuff, and we got to
Right.
come home, and it's time to be a father and provide, do something else. But the main thing about it is every day I've woke up for the last, I don't even know now, 15 years, I've tried to be the best hitter in the world. So there's drive to that. You know, I go to my arena, we're not trying to be good, we're trying to be great. You know, there's just a level of expectation and something you're chasing every day. And I don't know what I do next, but I just hope that I find the next passion in my life. I think that's going to
Whatever
be the
you
key.
do, you're gonna be successful. I
Man,
like
you're
it.
awesome, Coleman. I really
I mean,
Thank you
appreciate
guys for
Thank you.
having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cole.